All right, you ready? Today, I've got 4 of the most twisted Reddit confessions I could find. If you enjoy it, hit subscribe and leave a like. Here we go. I'm a pharmacist, 35 female, and a customer just handed me a folded note saying my sister has been lying about how our mother died. She had no reason to doubt the story she grew up with. I don't even know where to start. I've been sitting here for 2 hours trying to type this, and my hands won't stop shaking. I'm a 35-year-old pharmacist. I live in a rooftop apartment with my younger sister, Nora. We've shared this place for years, and it's always felt like the one stable thing in my life. Our mom died when I was 4. That's what I was told. That's all I was ever told. No one in the family elaborated, no one offered details, and I learned pretty young that asking about it made people go quiet in a way that scared me more than not knowing. So I stopped asking. I built a life around the absence, and I moved on. About 6 weeks ago, an older woman started showing up at my pharmacy counter. Her name is Gail. She came in every week, sometimes without even picking up a prescription. She'd just stand there looking at me with this expression I couldn't place, somewhere between guilt and grief. I figured she was lonely. A lot of our regulars are. I was patient with her. I smiled. I made small talk. Then, last Tuesday, she slid a folded piece of paper across the counter alongside her prescription bag. I didn't read it until my break. It said, "Your sister is lying to you. Your mother didn't die. Ask Nora about the prison letters." I read it 4 times. My ears started ringing. That night, Nora was out late. I went into her room and opened her closet. Behind a stack of old blankets, I found a shoebox. Inside were over a decade of handwritten letters, all postmarked from a state correctional facility. And tucked beneath them, 3 visitation receipts dated just weeks ago. I'm standing in my sister's bedroom holding proof that the person I trust most in this world has been keeping the biggest secret of my life from me. I don't know what to do. The letters were addressed to Nora. Every single one. She put the box back exactly how she found it. I didn't confront her. I know that sounds insane, but I couldn't. I slid the shoebox back behind the blankets, closed the closet door, and when Nora came home that night, I was sitting at the kitchen table like nothing had happened. She poured herself coffee, asked me how my shift went, laughed at something on her phone. I sat there studying her face like I was seeing it for the first time. Every smile, every casual glance. I was searching for a crack, some tell I had been missing for 31 years. There was nothing. She was perfect. Over the next few days, I waited for Nora to leave for work. Then I pulled the box out and read through the letters one by one. They were written by a woman I don't remember. Affectionate, remorseful. She referenced things I have no memory of. A yellow bedroom, a dog named Patches, a garden with tomato plants. Some of the letters mentioned me by name. She asked Nora how I was doing, whether the scar has healed well. I have a scar on my left forearm, a thick raised line about 2 inches long. I was always told it happened in a kitchen accident when I was small. I sat on Nora's bedroom floor and traced that scar with my finger, and felt something shift inside me that I cannot describe. I needed answers from someone who had no reason to protect me from them. I pulled Gail's prescription file at work the next day. I know that's a violation, I know, and called the phone number on record. She picked up on the second ring like she had been waiting. She agreed to meet me at a diner the next morning, no hesitation. I'm sitting in my car outside the diner right now, engine off. It's 6:45 in the morning and the windows are fogging up. In a few minutes, I'm going to walk through that door and ask a stranger to tell me the truth about my own life. And whatever she says, I can't unhear it. Gail was already inside, facing the door. Gail's hands were shaking before she even started talking. She was already sitting in a booth by the window when I walked in, coffee in front of her, untouched. She looked smaller than she does at the pharmacy counter. Older. She told me she used to live next door to my family when I was a toddler. She babysat me and Nora sometimes, weekends mostly, when our mother needed a break. She said that gently, like the word break was doing a lot of heavy lifting. I asked her straight out, "Is my mother alive?" She said yes. I asked her where. She went quiet for a long time, then said she had been in a correctional facility for most of my life. She said there was an incident when I was 4. She would not use the word yet, but I could feel it sitting between us on the table. She said authorities got involved and my mother was removed from the home. She wanted to tell me everything, but she kept stopping herself, asking if I was okay, saying she wanted me to be ready. I told her I was past ready. I told her I found the letters. I told her about the visitation receipts. Her face changed when I said that. She put her hand flat on the table and said, "Honey, if Nora has been visiting her, then she has known the truth for years. And if those receipts are recent, your mother may not be inside anymore." I drove home on autopilot. Nora was cooking dinner when I walked in, and she smiled at me and I smiled back, and the whole thing felt like a performance I was suddenly watching from outside my own body. I lay in bed that night listening to her footsteps in the hallway, the bathroom faucet, her bedroom door clicking shut. For the first time in my life, I locked my own door before I went to sleep. Mama Bear. The fact that Nora helped your mother move 3 streets away without your knowledge or consent makes my stomach turn. That is not forgiveness. That is setting a trap and calling it healing. No more family secrets. Nora did not protect you. She protected the stories she wanted to believe about your mother. There is a massive difference, and she needs to sit with that. Just a lurker, TX. Gail is the real one here. She saved you twice. Once when you were 4, and again at 35. I hope you have told her that. I did. I went to the pharmacy on my day off and waited for her. She cried before I could even finish thanking her. She told me she had kept a photo of me and Nora from the last day she watched us. She called me Little Bird, and I nearly got sick right there because my body remembered that name before my brain caught up. She said she had been keeping tabs on us from a distance for years, and only came forward because she found out my mother had been released and was living close. I owe that woman everything, and I barely know her. A few days later, she came back with an update. I moved out, and my sister still thinks she did the right thing. I met Gail a second time. She told me everything. 31 years ago, she was the neighbor who called Child Protective Services on my mother. She was in her front yard when she heard me screaming. She ran to the kitchen window and saw my mother holding a heated curling iron against my forearm. I was 4 years old. That is where the scar came from, not a kitchen accident. My mother was arrested that same day. She was convicted and sentenced to prison. She never died. The entire family agreed to tell us she was gone because they thought it would be easier for 2 little girls to grieve a death than understand what actually happened. Nora found out the truth when she was 19. She started visiting our mother in prison without telling me. And when our mother was released 14 months ago, Nora helped her find an apartment, 3 streets away from ours. I have been living a 5-minute walk from the woman who burned me, and the person who arranged it eats cereal across from me every morning. I confronted Nora last night. She sobbed. She told me our mother has changed, that she deserved a second chance, that she kept it from me because she knew I would react exactly like this. I did not raise my voice. I just sat there and listened to my sister explain why our mother's redemption was more important than my right to know my own history. She never once said she was sorry for lying. Forensic Files fan. Please tell me you have checked whether the restraining order covers proximity. 3 streets away in most jurisdictions would already violate standard release conditions for a violent offender against a minor. Absolutely not sorry. Your sister watched you run your fingers over those burn scars every single day and chose silence. That is not protection. That is complicity. Recovering, actually. This is the part that wrecked me. It is not just that Nora knew. It is that she actively maintained the lie while sharing a home with her. Every morning, every dinner, every time the subject of their mother came up in passing. Years of that. That is not keeping a secret. That is a performance. Every version of her own childhood had been built by someone else. The family, the silence, the story they all agreed to tell. She never had the chance to choose what she carried. I packed a bag on a Wednesday. By Friday, I had a lease on a studio across town. I put my keys on the counter, picked up my suitcase, and walked out. Nora watched from the hallway. She did not try to stop me. I filed a restraining order against my mother that week. Given the conviction record, it went through fast. I did not file one against Nora. I think about that every single day. I know what it means. Part of me is still hoping she will knock on this door and tell me she was wrong. She has not. She texted once. It said she still believes she did the right thing. I am writing this from a bare studio with a mattress on the floor and one mug on the shelf. I ran my thumb over the scar on my forearm this morning and realized I cannot remember what happened in that house when I was 4. Those memories are gone. And the only person who could have helped me make sense of any of it sat across from me every morning for years and said nothing. Not the mother. I was too young to remember her. Nora. The lie kept alive across our kitchen table day after day. She decided my ignorance was a kindness. I do not know what comes next. I only know I am done sitting across from someone who chose that for me and never once asked. For the first time in 35 years, there was no one on the other side of the wall. She let the building settle around her. Recovering, actually. As someone whose family pulled this exact kind of forced reunion without consent, the anger does not fade, it just gets quieter. I am so sorry. On to the next one. I, 25F, broke up with my boyfriend 4 months ago, but my family and friends all insist we're still together. Posted 6 days ago in r/relationship advice. I need to write this down because I genuinely feel like I am losing my mind. I am a 25-year-old midwife. I live in a shared house with my housemate Priya and my 2 cats. 4 months ago, I ended things with my boyfriend Callum. It was not dramatic. We sat on the edge of the bed, and I told him I did not see a future anymore. He was quiet for a while, then he nodded. He packed a bag that same afternoon. We did not yell, we did not cry. He handed me his key, and I closed the door, and that was it. The weeks after were normal. Sad, but normal. I worked my shifts, came home, fed the cats, slept. Then my mom started mentioning Callum. Casually, like, "Oh, Callum said you two are trying that new Thai place." I corrected her every time. "We broke up, Mom." She would just laugh and say, "Oh, stop it. You literally texted me about him yesterday." Then my younger sister Nadia forwarded me screenshots. Text from my name saying Callum and I had worked things out. The messages sounded like me. My phrasing, my weird habit of using dashes instead of full stops, but I never sent them. I figured maybe Callum was saving face with my family and it would die down. Then last Tuesday I came home after a 12-hour delivery shift. I dropped my bag in the hall and walked into the living room, and Callum was sitting on my couch eating pad thai out of the container. Priya was in the kitchen making tea like this was normal. I just stood there. Priya said he had shown her a full text conversation with me asking him to come over that evening, from a phone number I have never owned in my life. I looked at Callum and he looked at me like I was the one who did not make sense. She had not invited him. Someone had. She told him to get out. He looked at her like she was the stranger. I said, "Callum, you need to leave." He stood up slowly and held his phone out to me like he was proving something. There was an entire conversation on the screen, messages going back and forth for days, someone asking about his week, telling him she missed the way he made eggs on Sunday mornings, asking him to come over Tuesday evening because Priya would be out. It read exactly like me. The little things were right. The way I never use exclamation marks. The way I start texts with "so" instead of "hey." But the number at the top was not mine. I pulled out my own phone and called it right there in the living room. It rang. 6 rings, then nothing. No voicemail. Callum kept saying, "I do not understand. You asked me to come. Why are you acting like this?" He left, but he looked hurt, like I had done something wrong. I locked the door behind him and sat on the floor in the hallway for 20 minutes. Then I called my mom. She told me she had been texting with me on a new number for about 3 weeks. She said I had told her I switched phones after dropping mine at the hospital. I never switched phones. I asked her what the text said, and she read a few out loud. They referenced a holiday we took to Cornwall when I was 14. They used a nickname for our dog who died when I was 19. She said, "Why would someone else know these things?" I called Nadia next, and it was the same. She had been coordinating Saturday plans with the fake number for weeks. Brunch spots, gift ideas for Mom's birthday, inside jokes about our dad's cooking. The person answering was not me, but they knew everything I would say. I tried to explain this to my mom a second time, and she got quiet and then said, "Love, The texts sound exactly like you. Are you sure you are feeling all right? That is when it hit me. This was not someone watching my life from the outside. Someone was living inside it, wearing me like a coat, and the people closest to me could not tell the difference. Nobody had noticed the switch. It had already spread further than she knew. I found out on Wednesday that the fake number had also been texting my colleagues. One of the other midwives, Grace, pulled me aside during handover and said she had nearly covered my Thursday night shift because I had asked her to swap. I never asked her to swap. I checked with 2 more people on the ward and they both had texts from the same number. Casual, normal messages about rota changes and a birthday collection for one of the consultants. Whoever was doing this did not just know my family, they knew my work life. I went to the police that afternoon. The officer was kind but honest. No threats had been made, nobody had been asked for money, no explicit laws had clearly been broken based on what I was describing. He said he would log it and suggested I contact a solicitor. I did. She is working on it now. The worst part is what happened with Nadia. When I explained everything to her, she went very quiet, and then she started crying. She had been confiding in the fake number for weeks, telling her things about a relationship she was having trouble with, things about her mental health, things she said she would never have told anyone except her sister. She told a stranger all of it, and she did not know. She has barely spoken to me since. Not because she blames me, but because every time she looks at me, she remembers what she shared and who was actually reading it. And the thing that sits in my chest like a stone is this. The fake version of me was better at being me than I was. She replied faster. She remembered dates. She asked follow-up questions. My mom said to me on the phone, before she believed any of this, that I had seemed so much more present lately. She meant the copy. I work 12-hour shifts delivering other people's babies. I come home and I am so tired I forget to text back for days. And someone stepped into that gap and filled it perfectly. Side sleeper. This is one of the most calculated things I have ever read on here. He did not stalk you. He replaced you. That is so much worse. DV advocate throwaway. I work in domestic violence advocacy. This is textbook coercive control through social engineering. Please contact your local DV hotline. Sustained impersonation to isolate someone from their support network is prosecutable in most jurisdictions. Margot Midnight. Did Priya ever push back or question why you would be texting Callum from a completely different number? That feels like it should have been an obvious red flag. She felt awful about it afterward, and I genuinely do not blame her. Callum showed her the conversation on his phone, a full thread where I was asking him to come by and grab some things he had left behind. Priya and I mostly talk face-to-face since we live in the same house, so she never had my number memorized. She just saw my name and a normal-sounding conversation and opened the door. She has been one of the only people who believed me immediately once I explained everything. The comments kept pushing her toward one name. A few days later, she came back with an update. My own mother needed 3 weeks to believe I was me. My solicitor got the carrier records back. Callum bought a pay-as-you-go phone the day after we broke up. One day. He walked out of my house with his bag and went straight to a shop and bought a burner. He texted every single person in my contact list from it, telling them I had a new number. My mom, Nadia, my colleagues, old friends from university, everyone. And then for months, he just lived as me. He answered my mom when she checked in after my night shifts. He coordinated Saturday plans with Nadia. He texted Grace about rota swaps. He remembered birthdays and replied to photos and asked how people were doing. 5 months of conversations with my entire life, and nobody questioned it once. The restraining order came through on a Thursday. I sat in my car outside the court and cried for about 40 minutes. Not from relief. I just felt hollow. That same evening, the fake number texted my mom and Nadia saying I had dropped the restraining order and that Callum and I were doing couples counseling instead. My mom called me furious. She said I was being cruel and indecisive and that I needed to stop dragging Callum through the legal system if I was just going to take him back anyway. I had to photograph the court documents and send them to her. I had to prove to my own mother that a restraining order I had fought for was real because a text from a stranger was more believable than my voice on the phone. Veronica on Main. Please tell me you have changed every single password and security question you have. If he knew enough to text your family convincingly for months, he is probably still in your email or cloud storage. K. Frank. The scariest detail is that he did not need a single piece of technology more advanced than a prepaid phone. No hacking, no spyware, no cameras, just knowledge of who you are and how you talk. Nocturnal type. Has anyone looked into whether he did this to someone before her? This level of patience and planning does not appear out of nowhere. Someone else probably went through a version of this first. Side sleeper. This is a really important point. 5 months of sustained impersonation across an entire social circle is not a first attempt. That kind of infrastructure, knowing who to text, matching her tone, knowing when to reply, takes practice or obsession on a scale that almost certainly has a history. She did not disappear. She stayed. The carrier report confirmed it. The burner was registered to a shop 3 miles from Callum's flat, purchased with cash, never linked to my name or any account I have ever held. The restraining order holds. He cannot contact me or come within 100 meters of my home or workplace. On paper, this is resolved. But I do not feel like someone who won something. I feel like someone standing in a house after a flood, looking at what is still wet. My mom took 3 weeks to fully trust that I was me. 3 weeks of me showing up at her door, sitting at her kitchen table, talking to her face to face before she stopped flinching when her phone buzzed. Nadia and I are talking again, but it is careful. She knows that Callum read every message she sent to the fake number. Things about her relationship, things about her body, things she whispered to who she thought was her older sister. A man she met a handful of times at family dinners read all of it and replied with warmth and patience. I do not know how to fix that for her. I cannot unread what he read. Priya has been steady through all of this. She changed the locks the week it all came out, and she has not once made me feel like I brought this into our home. The cats do not care about any of it, which is honestly the most comforting thing in my life right now. I am not going to move. I am not going to change my number or delete my accounts or start over somewhere new. I am going to keep showing up, in person, at my mom's kitchen table, at brunch with Nadia, at handover with Grace. I will be slower to reply than the version of me that lived in Callum's phone. I will forget birthdays and fall asleep before texting back. But I will be real, and I will be there, and eventually, that will have to be enough. Old shoes, new laces. The part about your mom taking 3 weeks to believe you genuinely made me cry. I am so sorry. That kind of betrayal does not come from Callum alone. Your family failed you too. On to the next one. My yoga instructor describes my exact dreams during class, and I, 37F, have never told anyone about them. Posted 3 days ago by throwaway_fog92 on r/nosleep. I am 37, female, freelance photographer, and I live alone in my house. I need to write this down because I do not know who else to tell. For the past year, my life has been contract shoots back to back. Weddings, product catalogs, corporate headshots, then editing until 3 or 4 in the morning, sleeping maybe 3 hours, and doing it again. My sleep was destroyed. Not just bad, gone. I would lie in bed with my eyes burning and my brain running through color corrections like a screensaver I could not shut off. My best friend Jess had been going to this small evening yoga class and would not stop talking about it. The instructor, Margot, ran intimate sessions, 5 or 6 students max. Jess said it changed her sleep, her anxiety, everything. I finally caved and signed up. First class, Margot handed each of us a personalized guided sleep meditation track on a USB drive and a small amber bottle of custom blended essential oil. She said to diffuse the oil on our nightstand and listen to the track through earbuds as we fell asleep. I did it that night and slept 7 straight hours for the first time in months. Within 2 weeks, I felt like a different person. Then, Margot's in-class guided meditations started sounding familiar. Small things at first. She would describe a shade of blue I had dreamed about, or mention the texture of wet stone that had been in my dream that morning. I told myself it was coincidence. Then, last Thursday, during Shavasana, Margot began narrating a visualization. A flooded kitchen. A child's yellow rain boot floating past a table leg. The ceiling light reflected in the rising water. My eyes snapped open. That was my dream from the night before. Detail for detail. The boot was yellow. I looked at Margot. She was already looking directly at me. No surprise on her face. No pause in her voice. She kept narrating like nothing had happened. I could not move. I lay there with my heart slamming against my ribs until the session ended and everyone else rolled up their mats and left. I need someone to tell me this is not what I think it is. She was already looking at her. Tyler drove home, telling herself she was overthinking it. I sat in my car in the driveway for 20 minutes after that class. I told myself the flooded kitchen was generic. People dream about water all the time. The yellow boot was a coincidence. I was tired, I was stressed, I was filling in details after the fact. I almost believed it. The next morning I started a dream journal. I keep it on my nightstand and I write in it the second I open my eyes, before I even get up to use the bathroom. Every detail I can hold on to before it dissolves. Then I go to class that evening and I compare. A cracked terracotta pot sitting on a window ledge. Margot described it during the meditation. It was in my journal from that morning, word for word. A dog with a torn ear standing in a doorway. In my journal. In her meditation. A lullaby. A specific one my grandmother used to sing. One I have not heard since I was maybe 6 years old. Margot hummed it. I have never told anyone about that lullaby. Not Jess, not my sister Noelle, nobody. I wanted to tell Jess, but I could not figure out how to say it without sounding like I had lost my mind. And here's the part that scares me most. I started needing the class. Not wanting it, needing it. I would feel anxious if I thought about skipping. I would count the hours until the next session. I watched the other students and they were the same. Lingering after class, buying extra oil blends, watching Margot like she was the only person in the room who mattered. Every night I would set the diffuser on my nightstand, put in my earbuds, and let the track pull me under. It felt like surrender, and I did not care. Then I ran a test. One night I skipped the oil and the track completely. I slept terribly, and my dreams were normal, fragmented, forgettable, mine. The next evening, Margot's meditation did not match anything. I used the track and the oil the following night. The next class, she described my dream perfectly. It is the track and the oil. Whatever this is, it runs through those two things. The experiment answered one question and opened something worse. She kept going back. I know how this sounds. I proved the track and the oil are the mechanism, and I kept using them anyway. Every night. The class had become the center of my week. Margot makes you feel like the only person in the room. I hated how much I needed that. I tried telling Jess over coffee on Saturday. Careful questions, no accusations. Have you noticed the meditations feel weirdly specific? Jess shut it down fast. She said Margot is gifted, that the meditations work because she truly sees people. Her tone was flat, rehearsed. Then she said something that stopped me. She holds space for what we cannot hold alone. Jess has never talked like that. It sounded like a quote, and she had no idea it was not her own words. I dropped it. That night, I started reading about hypnagogic suggestion, audio played during sleep onset that shapes dream content, paired with certain scents. I am not a scientist, but I am a photographer. I know what it looks like when someone composes a frame. My dreams are being composed. My older sister Noelle works in audio production. I asked her to come visit this weekend. I need someone with the right equipment to take that track apart. Vinyasa Vanessa. I have had yoga instructors who seemed weirdly intuitive, but the yellow boot detail is something else entirely. That is not intuition. That is specific recall of something she should not have access to. Sleep Paralysis Sue. Please tell me you saved a copy of the audio file before you stopped using it. If she is distributing this to every student in the class, this is not just unsettling, it could be prosecutable. Nope, nope, nope. Everyone is focused on the dreams, but I cannot stop thinking about the fact that Jess has been attending this class for over a year. How deep is she at this point? Has she changed in ways you wrote off as personal growth? Yes, that is what wrecks me the most. Jess gave me the oil blend herself, told me it changed her life. I keep replaying conversations from the last year and realizing how many of her so-called breakthroughs were phrases pulled directly from the buried audio layer. She talks like Margot now. I did not see it happening because it was so gradual, and I wanted to believe she was just doing better. Then Tyler posted the update. I found what was hidden in the meditation track. Noelle came this weekend. I played her the meditation track through my regular earbuds first, and she heard exactly what I hear every night. Ambient pads, soft rain sounds, Margot's voice guiding a body scan. Nothing unusual. Then Noelle put on her studio monitoring headphones, cranked the gain, and started isolating frequency layers. She went quiet. Beneath the ambient mix sat a second vocal track, Margot's voice, whispering. Detailed scene descriptions just below the threshold of normal listening. Rooms, objects, colors, names, specific, vivid narrative. Not affirmations, not relaxation cues. Constructed imagery designed to be absorbed during the transition into sleep without conscious awareness. Noelle pulled off her headphones and her hands were shaking. I then looked into the oil blend. One of the unlabeled compounds matched something I found on an herbalist forum, a mild plant-derived sedative known to deepen suggestibility and lower conscious filtering during sleep onset. She has been planting the dreams. The track feeds imagery into your mind while the oil makes sure you are too far under to notice. Then, the next evening, she narrates the planted content back to you in class, and you think she is reading your soul. The whole thing is engineered. The intimacy, the devotion, the feeling that she sees you like nobody else does. It is manufactured dependency. The violation is not that she watched me. It is that she wrote inside me. Every night while I slept, someone was composing scenes inside my mind, and every morning I woke up grateful to her for it. Dr. Insomnia, real. Certain plant-derived compounds in essential oil blends can measurably increase suggestibility during REM transitions. This is not fringe science. Get that oil tested at a lab before you do anything else. Just a lurker. Run that audio file through a spectrogram. If there is embedded content below normal listening level, it will show up as visible patterns in the frequency display. Any free audio editor can do this. Dr. Insomnia, real. Seconding this, a basic spectrogram analysis would make any subliminal layering immediately visible. The whispered content would appear as a distinct, low-amplitude waveform, clearly separate from the main ambient track. Audacity can do it in about 30 seconds. Tyler threw away the oil. Almost. I stopped using the track and the oil 5 days ago. The first 2 nights were brutal. Shallow sleep, waking every hour, the kind of restless dark I thought I had left behind. But the dreams that came were mine. Scattered, half-formed, forgettable. Mine. I invited Jess over on Wednesday. I sat her down and played the isolated audio layer Noelle had pulled from the track. I showed her the herbalist forum post about the sedative compound. I walked her through the timeline, the oil, the track, the planted imagery, the next evening recital in class. Jess listened to all of it without interrupting. Then she looked at me and said, "The body remembers what the mind tries to release." Word for word from the buried audio track. I recognized it instantly because Noelle and I had transcribed that exact phrase 2 days earlier. Jess said it the way you say something you have always believed. There was no hesitation, no quotation marks in her voice. It was hers now. It had migrated out of her dreams and into her language, her thinking, maybe her identity. She has been listening to that track for over a year. I do not know how much of who she is right now was written by Margot. I do not know how much of who I became in the last 2 months was written by Margot either. I stopped attending. I deleted the audio file after Noelle made a backup. But last night, I caught myself standing at my nightstand with my fingers around the cap of the oil bottle. I do not remember getting out of bed. I do not remember walking over. I just looked down, and there it was in my hand, and my thumb was already turning. Deleted my main. The part where you opened your eyes and Margot was already staring at you made me physically recoil. She wanted you to catch that one. She was measuring how far your trust went. On to the next one. My mother has been making my father's medicine herself for 6 months, and I think it's killing him. Posted 3 days ago on r/offmychest by throwaway_rach0994. Something was wrong with his father. He had known it for months. I am 31, male, work as a data analyst, and live in a shared house with just my dog. I need to get this out somewhere because I do not know what to do, and I am scared that if I wait any longer, it will be too late. My father, Gerald, has been deteriorating for months. It started with small things, his hands trembling when he reached for the salt at dinner, losing his train of thought mid-sentence and just staring at the table. Then the weight started dropping. He has lost maybe 35 pounds since January. His shirts hang off him like they belong to someone else. About 6 months ago, my mother Donna joined some kind of online wellness group. I do not know exactly when it tipped over, but at some point she decided that Gerald's doctors were overprescribing him and that she could do better. She started making her own tinctures, herbal blends. She calls them his real medicine. She threw away the prescriptions or just stopped refilling them. I visited this past weekend. I checked the medicine cabinet while she was in the kitchen. Every single prescription bottle was empty, not one refill left. Then I walked back into the living room and I saw her holding a cup of something dark up to my father's mouth. He tried to push it away, just this weak, trembling hand against the rim, but he drank it. He drank it with the hollow look of a man who stopped fighting weeks ago. That night, after they went to bed, I picked up the cup from the counter. I held it close and I smelled the residue. It was bitter, chemical. Nothing like the chamomile and turmeric she swears is in there. I put the cup down and stood in my parents' kitchen at 2 a.m. with my hands shaking, and I did not know who to call or what to say, because how do you explain that you think your mother might be poisoning your father out of love? He could still smell it on his fingers during the drive home. He tried reasoning with her first. It did not work. I called Donna 2 days after that visit. I kept my voice calm, asked if maybe we could take Gerald back to his doctor, just for a checkup. She went quiet for about 3 seconds, and then she lit into me. She called me ungrateful. She said she was the only person in this family who actually cared enough to do the research, that the doctors just wanted Gerald on pills for the rest of his life so they could keep billing insurance. She said I had no idea what she had sacrificed to learn all of this. I tried a different approach. I drove over the following weekend and waited until Donna went to the store, then sat with Gerald alone. I asked him how he was feeling. He looked at me with this glassy, faraway expression and just said, "Your mother knows what she is doing." Then he gave me this tired little nod, like he had rehearsed it. He could barely keep his eyes focused on my face. So, I started documenting. That is what I know how to do. I am a data analyst. When something does not make sense, I collect information until it does. I photographed the empty prescription bottles. I screenshotted the ingredients Donna was posting in her private Telegram wellness group. Things like colloidal silver, black walnut hull extract, recipes with measurements down to the quarter teaspoon. The group had maybe 200 members all cheering each other on, calling pharmacists criminals, sharing testimonials. One admin account posted constantly. Long, detailed guides, ingredient sourcing lists, dosage schedules. Donna talked about this person like they were a prophet. During my next visit, I pocketed a small jar of tincture from the back of Donna's kitchen shelf. The following Monday, I packaged it up and mailed it to a private analytical lab. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the shipping store for 45 minutes afterward. My dog was in the passenger seat, pressing his nose against my arm the way he does when he knows something is off. I had just mailed evidence of my own mother's work to a laboratory to find out if she is killing my father. I do not have a word for what that feels like. The package was in transit. All he could do now was wait. 2 weeks. No results. And Gerald was getting worse. The waiting was the worst part. Every morning I checked my email before I even got out of bed, looking for the lab report. Nothing. I visited my parents again on the second weekend. Gerald had lost more weight. His eyes had a yellowish tint around the edges that had not been there before. He tried to pick up his spoon at dinner, and his hand shook so badly that Donna had to take it from him and feed him herself. She was smiling while she did it. She told me this was a healing crisis, that his body was purging toxins, and that meant the tinctures were working. She said it with such certainty. I sat across from them and watched my mother lovingly spoon something into my father's mouth, and I could not say a word because I had no proof of anything yet. At night, I lay in bed in my house with my dog pressed against my ribs, and I ran scenarios the way I run data sets at work. If the lab comes back clean, I am the paranoid son who stole from his mother's kitchen. If it comes back dirty, I have to figure out how to save my father from the woman who thinks she is saving him. If he dies before the results arrive, then none of it matters. There is one other thing I keep coming back to. My father had a younger sister named Cynthia. She was cut off from the family about 15 years ago over an inheritance dispute that turned ugly. Nobody has spoken her name since. I only mention it because a few months ago, Donna told me the wellness group had helped her work through old family pain, helped her learn to forgive wounds she had been carrying. At the time, I thought that was a good thing. Now, I do not know what to think about any of it. The comments were not gentle. Not a doctor, but you need to call Adult Protective Services immediately. This is textbook medical abuse, whether she realizes it or not. Do not wait for lab results to make that call. Deleted my first ACT. Where is she getting these recipes? That detail matters a lot. If she is in some kind of online wellness group, there could be someone deliberately feeding her dangerous information. She is in a private Telegram group. She showed it to me once, maybe 40 members, all posting about reclaiming health from Big Pharma. The admin goes by a name I did not recognize, but sends my mom direct messages almost daily with specific dosing instructions and mails her packages of dried herbs. I screenshotted what I could before she took her phone back. It felt organized and deliberate, not like a casual group at all. Thermal paste enjoyer. Get that tincture tested. Seriously, take a sample to a lab or even a university chemistry department. You need to know exactly what is in it before you confront anyone. Then the lab results came back. I got the lab results back, and my mother will not stop screaming. I do not know how to write this. The report came in yesterday morning. The tincture I took from Donna's kitchen contains colchicine, a toxic alkaloid found in autumn crocus. In sustained doses, it causes cumulative organ damage, kidney failure, liver failure, everything that has been happening to Gerald. Not chamomile, not turmeric, poison. I drove to my parents' house with the report printed out. I put it on the kitchen table in front of Donna and told her to read it. She laughed at first. She said I was being manipulated by the same medical establishment she had spent 6 months trying to protect Gerald from. Then she read the word colchicine. Then she read cumulative organ damage. Then she stopped talking. The sound she made was not anger or denial. It was the sound of someone whose entire understanding of what they have been doing collapses in a single moment. She screamed, and she did not stop. I sat at that table and let her scream because there was nothing I could say that would make it smaller. Here is the part I have not told anyone yet. I traced the admin account from Donna's Telegram wellness group, the one she treated like a guru. Fake name, fake photo, but sloppy. The phone number linked to the account, the shipping address on the packages of dried herbs she mailed to Donna. They match my father's estranged younger sister, Cynthia, the woman the family cut off 15 years ago. She spent months building a fake persona, earning Donna's trust, slowly escalating the recipes. She mailed Donna unlabeled dried bulbs and called them saffron root. They were autumn crocus. My mother had no idea she was being used as a weapon against her own husband by the one person who had every reason to want him to suffer. Sunflower forensics. The fact that every prescription bottle is empty is terrifying. She did not supplement his medications. She replaced them entirely. Your father is essentially unmedicated for whatever conditions those prescriptions were treating. Okay, actually though, I hate to say this, but if your father dies while she is administering unregulated substances in place of his prescribed medication, your mother could face manslaughter charges. This is not just a family disagreement. Sunflower forensics. This is the part people do not want to hear. Intent does not matter legally if the outcome is death by a substance you prepared and administered. Even if she believes with her whole heart that she is helping, the law sees a pattern of replacing prescribed medication with an unidentified compound. That is a prosecutor's dream case. Gerald survived, but something in that family did not. Gerald was admitted to the hospital that night. Significant kidney and liver damage from prolonged colchicine exposure. Doctors said another few weeks and his organs would have failed for good. He is stable now, long-term monitoring ahead, but they expect him to survive. Police opened an investigation into Cynthia. I handed over the lab report, the telegram screenshots, the shipping records. Donna was not charged. Investigators said she was a victim too, manipulated into giving her husband something she believed was medicine. Last time I went to the hospital, she was sitting in the hallway outside Gerald's room, staring at the wall, hands in her lap. The same hands that held that cup to his mouth every day for 6 months. I sat next to her and said none of this was her fault. She looked at me and said I made every batch with love. I measured it carefully. I thought I was saving him. I have nothing left to say to that. She did everything out of devotion, and it nearly killed my father. What is left between us is not anger. It is a silence neither of us knows how to fill. I drove home with my dog in the passenger seat, pulled into the driveway, and sat there for an hour with the engine off. I did not cry. I just sat. Quiet hands, loud mind. I went through something eerily similar with my grandmother. My aunt got deep into essential oils and started treating her diabetes with cinnamon capsules and oregano oil. Grandma ended up in a diabetic coma. Please act on this fast, solemn scroll. The most haunting part of this is that there is no one for Donna to direct her pain at. Cynthia was a phantom. The only hands that touched that cup were her own. She will carry that for the rest of her life. That was the last story for today. Thank you for listening, and if you have not subscribed yet, now is a good time.